and I sitting here going,
Hey, Dirty.
Yeah.
Welcome to Joe Brammeier Presents. Better to be dead and cool than live and uncool.
Everybody, welcome to a very special edition of Joe Brammeier Presents. We are going to be teaching Kayfabe today, which I would imagine our average viewer here, since this isn't necessarily a wrestling show, doesn't even know what Kayfabe is. So let me set the table for everybody here. I have avid professional wrestling fan Don Umland.
Yes, sir.
By way of Augustana College. That's how we know each other. We've known each other for a long time. I didn't go to Augie, but go Augie O.
Yes.
Which I never understood the O part because there's no Augie. There's no O in Augie, but
just go with it.
Whatever.
Yeah.
And then we have Kacey, who is a treadmill hero, but also knows very little, sadly, very little about professional wrestling.
I would say none.
None.
Yeah.
But you have a burning passion to learn more about it. So that's why I've invited Don in here. And between Don and I, we're going to educate you on what you are missing out on, past, present. We won't have to worry about future because you'll be a fan and you won't be missing out in the future.
I look forward to it.
All right, so we got to bring you up to speed here. So let's first talk about what we got going on. I have the $5 garage sale TV with VHS tape built in, and we are watching WrestleMania 5. And by the way, I'm not going to pull it out right now, but the tape itself has a sticker from a video rental place out of Orion, Illinois. Yeah. And it still works.
Crazy.
I mean, how many thousand times has this thing been played since 1989? 1989. Kacey, when did WrestleMania 5 come out? I don't know. I don't know. I don't even see a date in the small print here, but it's old. I think it's 89, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are going to bring you up to speed. What is Kayfabe? Don, Kacey said to me, what is Kayfabe? Will you explain Kayfabe to Kacey?
Well, me to do it.
Yeah, go ahead, and then I'll jump in, but you know it better than I do.
Kayfabe is basically, in the simplest terms, the unwritten rules of professional wrestling. It's kind of like boundaries, or what was also called the fourth wall. It's like the things that they do presentation-wise to us on the stage, this is the stage, aren't talked about. It's kind of like building an illusion, and you are suspending your reality, but the wrestlers aren't going to talk about it, back in the day. Now, it's much more public now that we have podcasts and things have come out.
Yeah.
But in its heyday, a wrestler that you might meet on the street, that's how he was. He didn't break character. So you thought that, with Hulk Hogan, we'll just take as a modern day name, would say in character as Hulk Hogan, not Terry Bollea, his real name, when you'd see him on the street.
Wait, that's not his real name?
Hulk Hogan? No, on his birth certificate is not Hulk.
I truly
Space
didn't
Hogan.
know he had another name.
Hulk Hogan's real name is Terry Bollea. By way of Tampa, Florida,
Yes.
right?
Orlando,
Tampa, somewhere down there.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but to Don's point, Hulk Hogan, if you run into even today, you run into, hey, the Hulkster, like, hey, brother, yeah, that's.
And that's Kayfabe.
Kind of. Let me add in on the Kayfabe thing.
Expand on it.
Okay. Let's say Kacey, for no good reason, decides to go to Disney World, right? You go to Disney World and you get on the Space Mountain ride, right? And we're in the dark warehouse and there's all the stars and we're going up into space, right? You're not actually going up into space at that time.
Yeah.
However, you're suspending disbelief to enjoy the ride for what it is. You're going to pretend that, you know what? I'm going to pretend I am going through space and woo, this is great, right?
Okay.
That, I think, encapsulates kayfabe to where when we watch this right here, Now, as a kid, you didn't know any better. You actually thought the $1 Million Man was thumping on Brutus the Barber beefcake right here.
And was really a millionaire.
And was really, well, yeah, because I don't even know if these guys didn't make that much money back in the day. They made maybe $1 million.
Right.
But the $1 Million Man presented himself as some gazillionaire character, and part of the kayfabe was believing he was some ruthless millionaire, which, by the way, did WWE ever allude to how the $1 Million Man got his money?
Nope. No.
You just believed he did.
Ted DiBiase, who's now an ordained minister, just to throw in another side note.
Yeah. He's a man of the cloth.
Man of the cloth.
He's a man of the cloth now, not a man of the bill.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. That makes more sense. So you know it's fake, but you're believing that it's not. Fake.
You're along for the ride.
Okay.
Our world champion, not right now, but past world champion, Seth freaking Rollins.
Seth freaking Rollins, who will be the champ.
Soon. Quad Cityan.
Oh.
Actually has a normal life with who is a wrestler as his wife, runs a wrestling business in the Quad Cities when he's not on the road, and has a child and a normal life.
And a coffee house.
And a coffee house down on 4th Street.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right downtown. Did you know right downtown Davenport, right next to what's Black and Brave Black and Brave Coffee or Black and Brave Wrestling Academy?
Yep.
You can go right past there, and right in the front window, there's a giant full-size WWE ring that you can see right from the street, and guys are in there practicing and training, trying to make it to the big leagues.
Like they're trying to become.
They're trying to Seth freaking Rollins.
Yeah.
Or at least get a job in the minor leagues.
How do you? So this is like.
Believe it or not, what you're seeing here, even 30 plus years ago, this took so much training and athletic ability to be able to tell this story physically. Let's go back to kayfabe real quick.
Yeah, that's fine.
I gotta lower myself down here a little bit. Do you ever run into this where you start talking wrestling with a non-wrestling fan and you just want to fire hose them, like with every last little bit?
100%.
So I'm trying to calm my heart rate down here because I'm so excited. Like if I had a tail, it would be, it would be wagging like crazy because you're excited to share the story, right?
I'm excited to share it with anybody that'll listen.
What's your favorite show of all time?
Of all time.
Of all time, like that you just love watching.
New Girl.
New Girl, and what's the premise?
It's about a girl that moves into an apartment with 3 other guys. She doesn't know that they live, but then it's just all about their
relationship.
Yeah.
They come
the
together.
dichotomy between the 4 of them.
Mm-hmm.
Those are not actually live cameras streaming a real gal living with 3 dudes.
Yes.
Right? But when you watch it, you become invested in it to where for the time that you're viewing your screen, you're along for the ride. Like you are interested in the dialogue between the characters and how they interact and what sort of trouble they might get in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but
that's not really a girl living in an apartment that's an actress pretending to be in an apartment.
Yes. WWE to me has always just been like, they're in a ring. I don't understand how there's a storyline.
It's good. It's a fair question.
Like they're just jumping around.
You're just seeing the action.
Yeah, I'm so glad you're here.
Oh, okay.
Don, how do you respond to the average person? And I would say Kacey's the average, especially female, right? The average female, or the person that's more of a sports guy. Yeah. Which you're an anomaly because you're a sports guy and a WWE guy. But anyway, respond to Kacey there on that point.
Here's the best way I can put it, Kacey. If you sit down and actually get beyond the surface where we're just, because there's no sound here, clearly, and you're not, you watch an episode or a show, you would become like, oh, so there is more than just the action in the ring. There's these storylines that take place behind the scenes, they might be in the background, or they might attack somebody, or they will cut a promo, which is them basically telling the story of like, this is why I don't like you, Kacey, and you've got the belt, and I'm going to take it from you, and I might even go after your family to get there. So now they start to intertwine other people, or he has a faction of people that's going to support me to get me there, and they're going to beat up your friends for me to get what I want.
Okay.
So now it's kind of like it's good versus evil in its basic.
It's always at its core, wrestling is good guy versus bad guy.
Okay.
And the bad guys obviously want to, blow up the world of the good guys, and the good guys want to maintain it with those who are at their core around them. Sometimes they're on their own as a lone wolf, and sometimes they're not. So how do we get there? Well, we tell a story within the ring, but maybe after the match is over, they attack him. Well, now what's he going to do to keep that belt? Or is there history between them because they knew each other 10 years ago when they came up in the wrestling world together? And like, I always thought you had my back, but you know what? Now we've gotten here, all you were just jealous. And now I'm going to take that away from you as an example of a storyline. But they have to portray that in promos.
Okay.
Outside the physical match. But there's things that can happen within a match where maybe they cheat to win. Maybe hit them with a low blow or a dirty move or poke them in the eye or grab their tights. And then you're like, well, that's the only way you can win. And so they have to tell those stories.
Yeah. In your show, what's the show, New Girl?
Yeah.
In New Girl, who's the main antagonist? Who's the person that's always causing problems? And I've never even seen the show, but I would imagine there is somebody that's causing not wonderful things to happen or someone always getting in the way. Who is that character?
It's probably Schmidt if I had to
Okay.
point one out.
So in the show, Schmidt may be considered the heel, the bad guy, the guy that's always causing a problem, right? But there's big fans of Schmidt, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Just like in WWE or in professional wrestling, lots of fans enjoy cheering for the bad guy, and lots of fans enjoy cheering for the good guy. Lots of fans also enjoy booing for the bad guy, and they also enjoy booing for the good guy. Think of it this way. Professional wrestling is one of those things where if in New Girl they said, okay, we're now gonna make this show live. Like it's still a fictional show, but we're gonna make it live. And all the movements that we do on this set have to be coordinated perfectly because there's only one take. We're live here. Yeah. And we're going to do it in front of 10,000 people weekly in different cities, and you get one take. And so you develop a little bit of a level of respect for what these guys do because there is no margin for error there. And when errors happen, they've got to make it look like it wasn't an error.
It's a soap opera with physicality.
It sounds very soap opera.
It is. In its way, it's a physical soap opera because they have to sell themselves with promos, a believability to you suspend. There's times in a match where I'll go into it, well, I know that Joe's going to beat me. He's bigger, stronger. But then somewhere in the match, I find the fortitude to hang in the match, and they're like, oh, my God, are they really going to pull an upset on me or pull a wool over my eyes? And then at the end, sometimes it happens, but then at the end, Joe usually finds a way to win. But they've suspended for a moment like, holy shit, he's going to pull it off. That's the miracle of when great theater when they're doing it in live action to suspend that reality, not only for the night, but within a match. And that's kind of the allure, if you're into that, or to hook somebody in, so to speak.
So these, were live, obviously. There's people in the audience.
Oh,
yeah. Anytime you go to a WWE event, it's a packed house.
But what, the promos, what is that?
Well, a promo that's a good question. A promo might be something that they do in ring or behind the scenes where basically they're with a mic talking to an interviewer.
Okay.
They're putting asses in seats when they cut a promo. That's a good way of putting it, I think.
But the promo is to move the story along. I might be telling you that's what I just told you. I might be like, that son of a bitch, Brammeier, I'm going to kick his ass next week. I'm tired of being second fiddle to him.
Okay.
You know, and enough is enough. You know, and then maybe he cuts a promo like he's always been jealous of me and he can't hold my jock strap. And, you know what, and we're going to find out next week because if he wants to bring it in, bring it on. Well, that moves the storyline along because maybe something eventful happens in the match that, like, I deserve a rematch. Or maybe I beat him. And it's like, now I deserve a title shot because I beat him for that. So now we have to move it along to the next event or the next major event because they have what they're called pay-per-views periodically, which is like beyond the weekly show, the big event every 2 or 3 months. Like they're having one this weekend over in Saudi Arabia called Night of Champions.
Maybe.
Oh.
They will.
They will.
They gave Saudi Arabia gave the WWE $50 million to do their next big event to come to Saudi Arabia and do it.
Like they paid them.
They
to come
paid,
there.
and cities, they compete for. WWE has a good dozen huge events beyond just the weekly television episodes that they do, which still pull in 10,000 plus twice a week. Okay. But these big cities know that when
they come to town.
Yeah, let's say WrestleMania, which was just hosted in Vegas.
Okay.
That brings in hundreds of millions of dollars into the local economy from people all over the world that are fans of this. And I would argue there's probably very few highly concentrated large groups of people that the WWE fan base could rival any fan base in any professional sports world or any fan base of anything, I feel like.
So this TV show, which I don't know if you've heard of Raw or SmackDown.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
That TV show has been episodic for 30-something years. It's like the longest-running episodic TV show in TV history because they've been running for 30 years every Monday night.
Did you know that?
No.
The WWE Monday Night Raw, that's now on Netflix, but was on USA since 1993. Every single Monday night, it's a new episode with new matches and continued storylines and new storylines that are sparked and generated since 93. Every single Monday night. No one can say that. Eventually you fizzle out. You know, even if you get 3-4 years out of a sitcom or something like that, that's probably pretty good.
And SmackDown's been around a good 20, so they've expanded from this, but for the longest time, they had 2 shows that have been shown weekly for the last 20 to 30 years. But now they have some new shows like NXT, which is like the up-and-comers, is on USA Network. And that's been on for like 7 or 8 years. So, I mean, you can literally watch wrestling, because WWE isn't the only corporation out there anymore. We've had this, he knows I have another.
There's rival brands
that aren't as big as WWE, and I'm a big AEW fan, which we could take an whole other episode about.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But
no, if we're going to talk about AEW, then you're going to need to go out to your car and get your clown wig and your red clown nose.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
But the point being, you could literally now in today's day and age on network and cable TV watch wrestling Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. 5 of the 7 nights there is a show on TV.
Of WWE.
Yeah, and the other productions.
Okay.
WWE has a show on Monday, Tuesday, and they actually have one on their internet now that let LFG, their up-and-comers, on Wednesday. Yeah. AEW's on Wednesday. Thursday, there's another organization. And Friday is SmackDown.
Okay, so like if we're focusing on just WWE and like Raw and SmackDown.
And NXT, they have 3 major shows each week. 7 hours.
Like
go ahead.
How does it all
right,
intertwine?
Think of it this way.
Okay.
Think of it this way. Think of all the wrestlers within WWE are on a roster.
They're on the payroll.
They're on the payroll, right? Tons of characters, so many stars, right? You can't possibly fit all those stars into one 2-hour or so episode of Monday Night Raw.
Okay.
So what you do is you have them on different rosters. You have a certain subset of these superstars on the Monday Night Raw roster, and all of them kind of travel together. They all kind of have feuds with one another. They build storylines within this whole roster, right?
Okay.
And then they do the same thing with SmackDown on the Friday night show.
Where it's like a separate group.
And that's another big group of these guys and gals from the main pool, and they're all within SmackDown.
Though they do intertwine a lot more often than they used to.
They do.
Like come.
They invade.
That's what. But there's the special part about it. It's like, whoa, that guy's a SmackDown guy. What's he doing showing up on Monday Night Raw? And it's a surprise.
Okay.
And it's like, oh, the Raw because let's face it. I think we watch more probably Monday Night Raw at our house than we do Friday Night SmackDown, just because Monday nights you're home, Friday nights you might not be, and then the weekend gets busy, and then enough time passes.
That's the beauty of a DVR.
That's the beauty of tape recording it. You can watch it back.
Yeah.
You can rewind it, and you can watch it back.
You can take the commercials out and blow through it.
But now, because I admit, this right here is kind of campy, right? You got a guy in a blue mask, and but now this is from the 80s, right? So this is kind of the cartoon era. This was what I would consider my superhero era. Like when I was a kid, when I was 9, 10 years old, these guys looked like real life superheroes. They're all big, they're all jacked, they're all athletic, they all have a character around them, because you hear them cutting promos on the mic. Like, I'm going to do this to this guy, and then that, But now in today's day and age, it's it is cinematic how the storylines are written.
Well, I'll give you an example. Have you heard of The Undertaker?
I have, yeah.
Okay. So he played a character that came out of this time period, and he's recently retired. But as he got towards the end of his last 10 years, he broke away from not just being The Undertaker as The Undertaker. He was The Undertaker, and he was the American Badass. He came out on a motorcycle. So I think there became a time and frame where the cartoonish characters kind of went away because people wanted reality. And people love that are fans of this. When you can blur reality and bring in like real-life storylines of some of these people or their history, people love it, because now it's like blurring the reality even more. Like, holy shit, does he really hate that guy?
Because these guys are performers. They work together. It's no different than if two people in a workplace don't get along.
Yeah.
There's some kind of interest there. There's like, I wonder what's going to happen when we have a meeting and so-and-so's here with so-and-so.
So there's a great story going on right now. It's just a microcosm. CM Punk is a wrestler who's been around for a long time. He left WWE about 14 years ago in a tiff, basically, for lack of a better description, and dropped this big promo called a pipe bomb.
Let me break that down for you real quick. Yeah, because there was a really popular wrestler at the time that was kind of, well, his name says it all, CM Punk.
He was a rebel.
He was a rebel. Yeah, like I'm not gonna take marching orders from the bosses back behind the curtain there. I'm here to perform, and I'm going to perform how I feel like I should perform.
But this is like his scripted persona.
We didn't know at the time.
You don't know.
Okay.
And so at the time, he wins the championship, which, of course, is predetermined.
And the fans are loving him.
The fans are, okay.
Real quick.
Yes.
When you say championship, are you saying like every match championship?
The
or
belt.
Are you saying like
the belt.
Overall,
the champion of
championship.
everyone in the pool, he has the championship belt. He is the number one guy within the company.
Okay, so he wins the championship.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
So he wins the championship, and then he sits down and he starts
Ranting.
into the mic, starts ranting about the business of professional wrestling.
Almost breaking the fourth
almost
wall.
like he was one of the first ones to basically come out and say, we're all in on the gag. And he started talking about like stuff that you'd think
never gets talked about.
They only talk about that in the boardroom and like behind the curtain. Like, so he was letting us see now and so as a fan, you're going, oh my God, he's saying the quiet part out loud. Like this is scripted. It's predetermined. It's choreographed. Or is it? Because everyone is. So the WWE is so smart when it comes to their production. You don't know if what they're saying, if they're really like disgruntled, because it's live. You're like, maybe he's just legit pissed off and he's had enough. And then he leaves the company. He wins the belt and then quits. Now, I think his contract was just up, and they didn't want to renew it. But instead of him saying, all right, my contract's up, I'm going to go to greener pastures,
You're left in doubt.
you're left in doubt. You're like, oh my, he just won the championship and left.
It's a good way to end a character.
Right. But he's now back.
Oh.
After 10 years,
He returned.
he comes back at one of the biggest live events ever in his hometown of Chicago, which I was at live, Survivor Series 2023, 24.
I was there for the Cena Punk match.
You were there.
Mhm.
You were there too? We were in the same building? Could have bought me a beer, you tight ass. Anyway, you could have found me.
Yep.
Anyway, when a character like that who left under all kinds of strange circumstances and was with the top guy in the company comes back and his music hits after 10 years, I don't think the roof has come back down.
A lot of storylines.
Blew the roof off the place because when these guys, the first note of their music hits, people know.
Okay, but doesn't that also make it a little hard for, so like that's a 10-year gap. So let's say I became a fan.
Good point.
In that 10-year gap, I'm going to have no idea what's going on.
Here's the great thing about it. If you're doing good storytelling and they do it not only with the wrestler but in their like video packages, they'll bring you up to speed on the history, and don't think those aren't intentionally driven for the casual fan. Like, oh wow, that's pretty interesting. And now he's back to face John Cena, who's now retiring. That's a pretty big name because he's been in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Some of these guys have transcended to Hollywood, which just makes the business bigger.
Yeah.
So now Cena's retiring, and he says, I'm going to retire, and I'm taking the belt with me because I'm the best ever, and you guys, it's either, John Cena's an interesting story because it's either you love him or hate him. So now he's leaving, and he wants to take the belt with him, and Cena, and now Punk's trying to be the savior of the belt. So they've completely yin and yanged each other to opposites of what Punk was 14 years ago. Cena's trying to do the same thing. And there's a story that started 14 years ago, but they need to bring the casual fan
Up to speed.
100%. And that's good storytelling. Intentionally done so you want to watch next week. And that, because at the end of the day, it's a business. And the business is making money. And the guy that created WWE, Vince McMahon and the McMahon family, he is now gone from the company. He's essentially retired, however you want to put it. And his son-in-law, who was a career wrestler, Triple H, Paul Levesque, my favorite wrestler, is running the family business, and they've just continued to go like this. Their shows sell out every week. Their pay-per-views make millions of dollars, and don't think they don't want to because it's a big, big business.
And what we're watching here, too, this kind of stuff here where these, like these guys are coming out in all the leather and the spike. Is this Demolition?
Yeah.
I think this is Demolition. So this kind of stuff, it built the WWE, but it almost killed it. They kept with these like these guys here in the leather and the spikes and all that and the assless chaps that they've got on. You don't go to the grocery store looking like that. Like you don't walk around town looking like that.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So for a while, like all the young kids watching this, they're like, "Wow, this is optically so crazy. Like I what is going on here? Like who are these characters?" But as the fans started to get very smart,
That's a good way to put it.
the fan base started, like Joe as a kid watching this, as a kid, I loved this.
Mm-hmm.
But as an adult, I'm like, what are we, this doesn't seem like a realistic feud here. You know, these guys with all this face paint on and, you know what I mean, right?
Okay.
So now I'm watching this where the characters look like just athletes and somewhat normal people. Some of them have like a in-ring persona and a character.
And many use their real names.
Many of them use their real birth names.
Randy Orton.
John Cena, that's his real name.
So they're not like costumed anymore.
We're not doing a lot of cosplay in modern day WWE. Now you do have some characters that are amplified, but not you're not having people coming out in a dominatrix outfit right now, you know,
Who are
getting in these
what's
feuds.
The tag team that used to be they come out in like not look like the Warriors.
Modern day one,
Yeah.
the Viking Raiders.
which they converted their name to just the Raiders.
Yeah.
Because they wanted to get away from a comic. Like, well, they're not really Vikings.
You had these two guys, a
Okay.
modern day tag team,
Yeah.
come out like they were actual Vikings.
With a shield and the fur and
And so,
Okay.
like, I look at that, and like the kids are kind of like, oh, okay. But I look at it, I'm like, well,
It's a
there's no
stretch.
modern day Vikings walking around here. So they quickly pivoted that into kind of like a biker gang.
the War Raiders.
The War Raiders, yeah. And they're more of like your fat uncle who rides a Harley
Okay.
kind of guy,
They're
right?
tough, but they're tough.
But they're tough guys. But they look like a couple guys you might see sitting over at the Axe and Oak that just got off their bikes and you don't want to mess with them kind of guys.
Keep the kayfabe or whatever.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So I mean that's the hook is can you walk in to the show maybe knowing how it's going to go down, suspend belief, which is when you're in there and then they start to do it and then all of a sudden you're like, wow, and then you walk out and you're like, I was entertained for 3 hours. But you have to be willing to allow yourself to. And I think that's what makes it great because it's good versus evil. You don't know who's going to win. You maybe think you know who wins. And then they throw you a curveball and you're like, God, that was great. I didn't see that coming.
What a great story arc that is.
Okay.
Or they leave you hooking like, I got to come back next week because I don't know what's going to happen now.
Katie, how you feeling about this conversation back there behind the camera? Like, are you at all interested yet in watching some WWE?
I keep watching the TV.
Yeah,
I'm
this is
trying to. I can see the stage. The
Yeah.
staged fighting.
yeah.
So
I'll tell you what's really cool, Katie, and all of you. When you go to one of these live and you get a chance to sit, reasonably close.
Yeah.
And you can hear the pops and the hits. And even though they may not be hitting each other, when they slap each other across the chest.
Like that chest chop there, that's a real chest chop. That hurts.
I mean, it's a theater with physicality. And don't think they don't get hurt. And they know how to work each other. And in fact, they've talked about in interviews, if you lay one a little heavy, you might get a receipt back the other way. Like, okay, I felt it, but I'm going to give you one back.
but there's never any
Intentional.
concussions or blood or anything
There
in
is,
these.
and they're never trying to intentionally hurt each
yeah.
other because when they do a big move like off the top of the ropes or whatever, they're trusting if Joe puts me and flips me over, I'm putting my body in his hands to execute the move safely so he doesn't get hurt, but also I don't get hurt. Because at the end of the day, if one of us gets hurt, the storyline goes away. Or it could be my career or my paycheck. So when they do something big or they flip out of the ring, you'll see them flip over. They're landing on him, and he's literally catching me, but yet absorbing the hit.
And are there actually like chairs thrown?
When a
Like
chair,
you see-
yeah, but when they hit a chair on somebody, there's a key to it. Like you want to hit it flat on the back.
It's a real metal chair that they're actually hitting across your
But
back.
there's a way to execute it so you don't get hurt. You wouldn't conk them on the head on the top and give them a concussion. You might hit them on the broad side of the back, or when you see them land, they land flat because they've been trained to do so. But when they choreograph together, they're about taking care of each other at the end of the day because it's
So this
their
is
lives.
like a choreographed fight.
Yes, but
Yeah.
but when it's done well, you're sitting there and you hear a good pop. You're like, holy shit!
All right, I'll give you some of the mechanics here of wrestling. This is a good point here. Without knowing anything about this
See how it
match
landed
in
flat?
general, I know who the good guys are and I know who the bad guys are. Just if I didn't know who these teams are in general, once they go to that cut, the good guys are always in the top left corner of the ring,
Okay.
and the bad guys are always at the bottom right.
Typically,
In a tag team match, typically the good guys are in the top left.
I've heard you talk about this
Yeah,
before.
that's one.
But why?
Why? Because you want to see from the hard camera angle, you want to see the good guys reaching out for the tag. Because you're rooting for the good guys to get the tag.
emotion in
The
the
emotion. The bad guys are down below, and then they can do some dirty-handed tricks and stuff over here. But the good guys are always in the top top left. Also, the referee
Yeah.
plays an incredibly important role within a professional wrestling match. The referee is the one that's communicating with both the good guy and the bad guy. One, to make sure they're okay after a big spot or a move,
Okay.
right? And also to communicate with these guys what to do next. Just to make sure that they're like, look, the salt in the eye, he's gonna duck. Oh, and he got his partner with the sand, and the referee was distracted while he did it. Otherwise, it would have been a disqualification. But now, so that's a bad guy move, right? That's a good guy would never throw the salt, and so you establish these things. And also, the bad guys, Don, correct me if I'm wrong, but the bad guy typically calls the match. Meaning, while these guys are wrestling in the ring, they're talking to each other. They're communicating with each other. They're like, all right, we're going to do an Irish whip off the rope, and then you're going to Irish whip, walk into the foot. And they come up, and then the guy puts his foot up, and he, boom, goes down. They're talking through this whole match. These wrestlers are.
Now, they may know how they want to finish it. They've met prior. But in ring, you could, if you're up close, sometimes I can pick out little... You'll see them close and maybe a
so
voice.
This is a promo. So what we're doing here, this is before we go to a match, or possibly after, but I'm guessing before. They're basically hyping up their match.
And what they're going to do.
What you're about to see here.
Okay.
Because who are these guys, right? Well, now you start to get a little glimpse into their character, which this was an interesting tag team. Was this the Powers of Pain, or was this Twin Towers?
I think it's...
But they used to be called the Twin Towers.
But the point being is they're being in character, and they're selling you on, why should I watch this match, is what it's all about.
Okay.
We do it. There's a lot of this stuff that's, even though they're not as cartoonish today, there's time-tested things that we've talked about in the last half hour. How do I sell a match? Promos. How do they do certain things? There's a lot of these things that have been around forever that have been modernized that still work. We had a match in the last week, a major match with Gunther, or not Gunther, but I'm going to forget who it was, a sleeper hold.
Sure that wasn't Gunther?
Oh, yeah.
Gunther and Jey Uso,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
As a little retaliation.
And, a lot of this is high-flying and big kicks, but sometimes it can end with a simple move.
Like a choke out.
A choke out. Or, but people would know and be like, God dang, it wasn't the last move that was cool, but everything they did in the match to make you think, oh, God, he's going to win. Oh, he's going to win. Oh, shit, look what they just did. And you get excited, and then they get the payoff, and then we're like, well, where do we go from here?
And is it always a good guy versus a bad guy?
Not always.
See, that's where it gets really good.
Good question.
Okay.
That's where it gets really good.
May I answer?
Oh, you're the guest. Of course.
The majority of the time it is that.
Okay.
It's in some muddled in between where a guy is maybe like Sami Zayn is like, and I'm just using the name, muddled on where he should go with his future.
Which, by the way, Sami Zayn gotta go. I heard they let go of Ludwig Kaiser. Why is Sami Zayn hanging around this smooth, hairy guy that has no muscles, no nothing, and he's whiny?
Oh, I suppose you'd say that about Daniel Bryan then too.
Oh, I wasn't a fan of him. But anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry. Wow. Yeah, there's just characters, Kacey, you get invested in where you're like, man, I'm watching this show and I don't understand why the WWE holds on to these certain characters that I just don't like. I don't get. It's not like I don't like him because he's a bad guy, but he's a great wrestler. I just don't like him. I don't like the optics of him on TV.
So to Joe's question, there's not every wrestler we're going to be like into.
Yeah.
I mean, it's no different than a TV show. You might like a certain character, like,
Yeah, absolutely.
But point being, good versus evil sells the most. But like last week, we had a match on SmackDown with two of the biggest I'll throw this name. Faces would be the good guys, the popular guys.
Okay.
And we had Jey Uso and
Cody Rhodes.
Two of the biggest faces wrestled each other for a chance to get into the finals of a tournament. Well, the crowd is obviously into it because they love both people. But that doesn't, so occasionally you have to have two popular faces cross each other. One, because it's rare, and you kind of like, wow, we get to see these two wrestle each other. And there was no dirty moves or no dirty tricks, and somebody had to win. But most of the time, you'll rarely see a heel versus heel match. Because why would you want your two bad guys facing each other? Because they're all trying to get to the good guys who have the belts. Though sometimes the bad guys do get the belts, and they're like, yeah, I'm holding on to it. I'm the bad guy. Try to take it away from me. I dare you. And then the good guys got to fight the good fight. And the bad guys are going to keep him from getting there. Going to knock him down. Can he get there? Can he finish his story to win the belt from the bad guys?
Think of it this way. Batman goes out and he fights the Joker.
Okay.
He fights the Penguin.
Yeah.
He fights Bane, right?
Well, look at the film with the Joker when he chased him all through the movie. In the Dark Knight.
Dark Knight, yeah, it's good versus bad, right?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of entertainment value there. But what if Batman and Robin had a falling out and they fought each other? Yeah. That's what the WWE does sometimes with two good guys against each other. It's like, well, we can have good guys and bad guys fight each other all the time, but what if Batman and Robin are at odds?
So then who do you root for?
Who indeed, Katie? Who indeed? Yes, and so you send the audience on a ride
because you don't know who they're going to have win between the two faces, which is what happened with Jey Uso and Cody the other night. They were rooting for them both. They loved it.
Also on these shows, there's malfunctions. Things go wrong. Things get screwed up, but the WWE has blurred the lines of fact and fiction so well, you don't know if it's real or not.
Or a work, as we call it.
Or a work. Real life application. Let me give you one here. We've all seen the video of the carny who's got the ride where you're all the way up high and then they hit the button and you drop down, right? And that ride, right? Have you seen the clips of the guy who's like, he's hitting the button and it's not dropping and he tells the people, actually, shoot, I don't think your harness is hooked. And they go, what? And then they drop him. What that does is it adds a whole nother level of excitement to the ride because you're on the way down going, I might die here, where the guy knows you're strapped in. He's just messing with you. Well, the WWE takes a page out of that playbook all the time where you don't know, like, did that guy really get hurt? Like, are they really mad at each other? And the latest layer that professional wrestling has gotten into is social media, because all of these superstars, for the most part, have a social media presence. 100%. They've got a Twitter, they've got an X page, they've got blah, blah, blah. Well, they're taking their feuds to social media. So there's the good case in point. There's a guy named Karrion Kross. You don't know who he is, but he's really trying to make a name for himself. I think overall he's got a pretty strong character, but he's never really been pushed that hard on TV. Well, he has started a feud with Sami Zayn, another top guy in the company who's on TV all the time. He has started a feud online, like talking shit to him. And
which they can transcend onto TV and weave back and forth.
And so then WWE is on TV going, God, did you see the tweet that Karrion Kross put out about Sami Zayn? And then all of a sudden you start to see these little interactions with him on TV, but you don't know, like, does he really not like this guy? Because what they're able to do now, unlike on WWE TV, where you can't necessarily get like super F-bomby and stuff like that.
We had a time and day we did, but not now.
Not anymore. But on social media, you can, and it's like, well,
the gloves can come off.
Do they really not like each other or not? Better tune in to find out.
I wanted to go back to something when we said The Dark Knight. Have you seen the film?
Yeah.
Real quick.
Real quick.
Real quick. No, I want you to make this point.
Yeah.
But real quick before you do.
Yeah.
Doesn't this feel good? Doesn't this feel good to just hold on here, man? I getting all worked up here. Doesn't this feel good to actually educate someone? Kacey, is your tail just I mean, as your tail moved at all, or is it still like drooped?
I'm more interested than I ever have been.
Okay, all right, go ahead, Don. So I just wanted to kind of.
So remember in the Dark Knight when they're seeing each other and Joker says, "I don't want to kill you. You complete me."
Yeah.
Heaven forbid it. It's like the bad guy. I need you to make my character work, and you need me to make your character work because they're intertwined.
You're so wise.
But that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
They can't work without each other. If we had all good guys, it would get boring after a while.
So the matches.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just like keep it simple, good guy, bad guy.
Sure.
But like there's belts involved.
In some matches and some not.
Okay.
They-
So
There's
isn't-
very few belts floating around out there which signify you're the best in that particular division or in the whole company.
Though you might be
Okay.
aspiring to get a belt. But okay.
So this isn't like a tournament bracket
No.
fights. This is like, I don't like you, we're gonna fight.
You have that. You have just bitter rivalries where sometimes, look, we're just going to play this out to the end and over maybe several weeks where they've dirty tricked each other and where we're eventually just going to get to each other and fight or have a match, whether it be a regular match or in a steel cage or a last fall standing, whatever the little thing they put into it. But they might just fight to fight.
I think what you're asking is everybody at all times trying to be the champion?
That's
fighting for a belt.
Yeah.
Is it like when do the belts come into play then?
But it's
kind
already
of thing.
it's already decided though. Like this story, they know who's gonna. The audience doesn't know, but all of these wrestlers, they know. I have to lose, so he gets the belt.
Yes, at some
So
point you
what's
have to
the-
drop the belt.
What's the fun in that then? Like, why? I think it would be better if, they're doing all their little fake fighting there, and they don't know who's gonna get the belt. What's the fun in knowing?
Oh, you mean the
that you have
the
to-
superstars?
right? So
Remember,
yeah,
at the
they're-
end of the day, this is a business.
They're
their
an
job.
entertainment business,
Now.
Yeah.
just like the NFL. It's scripted.
well,
Okay, but go ahead.
But let's be clear here. If the WWE puts a belt on somebody, particularly this one, you are the face of the organization, i.e., we'll take Cody Rhodes, who's a recent champion who completed a big story. You are expected to make a lot of appearances as the champ and represent the WWE accordingly, even when a heel gets it for a while. But, I mean, if you've got a belt, they're strapping it on you because they know they can entrust you to represent the company accordingly.
so that's how they write the story.
Big deal. Yes, they write the story. And some of these stories have taken over the course of a year or more, particularly,
Like the Cody Rhodes thing went on for 3 years. It seemed like we were watching this guy
try to win it
try to win the belt.
from what was called the bloodline or a bad, but the group wanted to dominate. One of the greatest stories ever.
Yeah.
But the people love a good story, and seeing them get here and knocked down and here and knocked down. Sometimes you don't ever want to see it end because you're so invested, but you do want to pay off at some point. But then you have to, for a guy like Cody, once you get that big story that he had, now he's like, okay, well, what other story can we put him in now? Because eventually he's going to lose the belt, which he did. And now he has a chance to win it back again. But that story took another year to put together. And that's what these guys that write these stories and they meet in rooms are very creative because they might be plotting something out for WrestleMania, their biggest show of the year, a year in advance. Or taking something from 5 years ago and intertwining it into that story to arc towards its big finish. So, I mean, it takes a lot of forethought for 52 weeks of the year in a show they're going to put on TV to interject it, take it out, interject it. And then that's not even taking account if somebody gets injured or whatever.
Yeah.
Because we just had an injury the other night with a female, very popular wrestler.
Zoe Stark. Was it? Well, not even Zoe and
The tag team champions.
oh yeah, Liv Morgan.
These are two major female characters who now had. She landed on her elbow and separated her shoulder completely. And Zoe Stark came off a move that was choreographed with somebody jumping off and had to catch her and it didn't land right and blew out her knee completely.
And we watched that live on TV. It looked ugly.
And
Like when the knee goes the wrong way on TV, it's like, ooh.
Usually they fight through and finish matches. Those two incidents, both those matches got stopped. So then TV production has to quickly how are we going to? Okay,
We're live, baby.
we gotta
Yeah.
move on to the next match, and they have announcers, so this has to be very well prepared and covered for when surprises happen. So,
Ask me a general question.
A
You
general
still seem
question?
so confused.
I'm trying to wrap my head around
this whole production.
This whole thing.
yes,
Well,
like just how it. Like I get there's characters and like backstories and back rivals and things like
Yeah.
that, but I don't. Why are they fighting every week? And like, what's
the allure?
what?
Yeah.
Why? Like, when does a belt come into play? Is that only WrestleMania?
No.
Like,
S-
are
yes.
they working towards that constantly, or is it just like I'm mad at this person, so we're gonna fight this week? I just
It's a lot to digest because you have a
Don't
lot
get
of varying storylines, which in a given 2 or 3 hour show, you'll have just matches that are matches. And usually they have some general connection. But most are going to lead towards, they usually have a pay-per-view about once a month.
Okay.
Or specialty events, as PLEs as they call them now, paid live events. And usually those culminate selected stories. How they get there is done within the week on the weekly TV shows. Now, they may not concentrate on one on a particular week. Like last week, Cena wasn't on TV. You know, he wasn't there Friday night.
Right.
So
What was that? Well, didn't he? No, what was that big promo he just cut on CM Punk? That was Friday night.
okay, so
He did the
Monday.
reverse pipe bomb
Yeah.
promo. Yeah, which
But-
was pretty cool.
But the selected nights, you may not see certain characters, because they're going to concentrate on something else. So they have to weave that in and out.
Let me give you a good one here. Let's talk to Kacey a little bit about Dominic Mysterio and his arc here. Okay. So
what is an arc?
a story arc, basically
Okay.
how all of a sudden you're just like you're just
Inconsequential.
doing something and then boom, something happens where now you've become a really popular
Or
Gotcha.
or
or
relevant.
relevant all of a sudden people are really paying attention to you.
Okay. Yeah.
Dominic Mysterio is the son of Rey Mysterio. Is he really the son in real life?
He is his real life
Is-
son, and Ray is a Hall of Fame wrestler. Started in the 80s, still wrestling, not as much, but a Hall of Fame wrestler, and this is his son.
Super popular wrestler, has been for years.
He was a face.
Yes, a good guy.
Okay.
Good guy.
Okay.
Well, he started bringing Dominic Mysterio, his son, around when he was probably 9-10 years old, around the business. And there's all this old footage of Dominic as a young boy hanging out with Stone Cold Steve Austin and all
Sitting
these.
on his lap.
Yeah, like he was like the son of a wrestler, right? Well, he got into the business. And at first, when he got into the business, he was on a tag team with his dad. It was this wholesome Ray and Dominic,
Father,
son. Well, they decided, or somehow along the way,
creative.
the
Right.
creative department at WWE was like, what if we made Dominic a bad guy
Turn on his dad.
and turn on his dad? And so,
Now, let's preface this. In real life, they are a loving father and son.
I would hope. I would.
Yes.
Hope so.
This
yeah.
is but this was a written story for Dominic and his dad.
so they go to Dominic and Ray and they say, what if Dominic goes away for a while, right? Because how can you miss me if you won't go away? And he comes back and he's got this filthy mustache and this long black greasy hair, and
Dad's like, what?
and Dad's like, what are you doing? You're my son. You're the apple of my eye. And what if Dominic comes out and starts talking trash to his dad, cutting a promo out in the ring and starts calling him my deadbeat dad? Like, he cut a promo with Rey Mysterio. It was like, when I was growing up, all my friends, they got Mercedes, and you promised me a new car, and all you did was buy me a BMW.
or was never there.
You're
for him.
never there. You're a deadbeat dad. Now, his dad, Rey Mysterio, who is a beloved character, good guy within the WWE, the fans are in the crowd immediately going, well, what kind of lowlife calls out his dad in front of millions of people and calling him a deadbeat and all of this. And overnight, Dominic Mysterio turned into the most hated bad guy. To what cheers are to a good guy, boos are to a bad guy. The worst thing you can have happen as a WWE superstar is no reaction.
Yeah.
If you come out and the crowd is like, F you, boo,
You
boo,
suck.
you've won. You're a great bad guy.
You're over.
You're
the term.
over. You're over. That's a
got
term
over.
in wrestling. You're over. You're over as a good guy. You're over as a bad guy, meaning you're over with the fans. They love you.
Because if they get you in the audience and you react to it like, "Oh, you suck," or "Boo," he's done his
job.
He's done his job.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
And the badder the bad guy, the higher up the ladder of good guys you get to wrestle against. The bigger the name, the bigger the match, the more butts and seats, the more money you're going to get paid if you are a really good bad guy. And Dominic Mysterio turned himself into this scheming, conniving, cheating bad guy.
To the point that he helped form his own bad guy groupage
Oh,
that's
good.
still around.
Then he
Okay.
formed his own faction, which is a group of bad people.
Okay.
Sort of. And what or a faction could be a good guys, a group of good guys, or a group of bad guys, but
They're a rebellious group because they want to, like, we don't fit in, so we're going to just be our own, march to our own drum, is kind of this group. But point being, he formed his own group of support.
mm-hmm. And then when you have a bad guy who has a gang of bad guys around him, it's really hard to get to the Weasley bad guy, right? He's always wiggling his way out of a mess that he created.
Or
And-
if Ray wants to face his son at some point, he's got to beat X, Y, and Z
To get to him.
Now, here's what happened. Dominic Mysterio, over the last couple years, has become such a good bad guy. The fans started to cheer for him. Because it's a Stone Cold Steve Austin thing. Stone Cold was like, F you to the boss, and putting middle fingers in the air and chugging beers after the match. And he was designed to be a bad guy, but all of a sudden, people were like,
liked him.
I like this guy.
because I can't do that to my boss, but I can transfix myself through Steve and like, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
I wish I could do that, but Steve's doing it for me, and I can celebrate it for 3 hours because I suspended reality.
Yeah. Okay.
And there you go.
And Dominic Mysterio recently competed for the Intercontinental Championship, which is basically like the second place belt, we'll just call it, right?
Okay.
You're really good, but you're like part of the not the big powerful guys, but you got another
Pretty
group.
damn good.
Pretty damn good. You got it to have that belt. It's a big deal. It's a big payday in real life if you carry that belt with you too.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Dominic Mysterio wins the Intercontinental Championship at a big event a couple months ago. And the place went bananas. Like in a loving way, like, wow, because they're so invested in this character. Like, did you watch Yellowstone at all?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Well, in any of these big shows where there's like a main character, right? If something of huge significance happens to that character, you're interested, whether you like that character or not. But if they're a main character, so that's an interesting thing where you can go from a bad guy and you're so hated as a bad guy. The fans start to enjoy booing for you. It's a wild thing.
There's a couple of wrestlers, and I'll jump in on this, that have said this over time. John Cena's done it. You know the name.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He's done cut a couple promos along with some others. Like, you fans are so fickle. You'll cheer when you hear my music come out, but then you'll boo me afterwards. But if I talk about that guy, you'll cheer, and then you'll boo for him. Well, who are you? Who are you? You know, and Cena's writing this off as his last storyline. Like, you guys, you know, you hated me, you loved me, and yet I've been the best ever. And so, you know, he's playing on everybody's emotions, and he's writing it into a great story. And when you can hook people in like that, you've hit the big time.
Yeah, I would encourage you to watch Friday Night SmackDown from Saudi Arabia, because it'll be live from Saudi Arabia.
This Friday?
This Friday, right?
No, well, SmackDown will be Friday, and then they're
Yeah.
PLE.
But it'll be in Saudi, won't it?
Yeah.
SmackDown will be in Saudi because they're there for the big event on Saturday night.
It's the last show before the pay-per-view.
And so the last show before the pay-per-view typically tells all the storylines.
Got it,
So you
yeah.
can get caught up with these little video vignettes of why do I care about these two people, and they'll tell you the story. So then you're like, "Oh,
Okay, I
I
guess
kind
I'm
of want to see who wins that match,"
Okay.
you know? And Don, we don't watch this as I really hope so and so wins because I like that person. We're so invested in the storyline that you want to continue to see the story. Like, what's the best for the storyline here? You know, what's going to get me watching next week?
So let's go back to the very beginning. We talked about kayfabe.
Yeah.
Now that social media and the fourth wall has kind of been broken, where everybody knows, we're all in the know now that this is how,
It's a performance.
Yeah. Yeah.
and fans are okay with that. Let's just put it that way. But at the same time, we still like to suspend belief as a child. You know, it's like believing in Santa Claus. I still enjoy that moment where I can go in there for 3 hours and not worry about anything and just enjoy and suspend and like, oh my God. Or have that moment where like, holy shit, he just really won.
Okay.
And it's a physical soap opera at the end of the day. That takes my I have imagination, but there's so much dialogue now because of internet, podcasts, and there's a show that's on every day called Busted Open Radio. They talk 3 hours of wrestling every day a week, 7 days a week.
Holy crap.
Monday, and they just talked about this on Busted Open yesterday, they were the number 3 show in the world, and it's a talking wrestling show. So to stand here and say, like, is there an audience for it? Hell yeah, there is. I mean, there's a lot of people that have eyes on it, and there's a lot of people like yourself, have no fault. Like, what is this that's so alluring? And my wife's the same way. He's like, "What? You're such a nerd, Don." And I go, "I know, but it's my thing, and I love it." And then when I can talk with somebody like Joe or others that I'm like, but it's like catty men or catty. I mean, we could talk for this for hours because we're invested.
This is your guys' Bravo reality
Yes.
TV show.
Yeah.
It's my wife's Love is Blind that now she's hooked me to watch. But once you get hooked on a selected show,
Yeah.
you obviously want to know, well, I want to know what happens next. Is she going to dump him? Are they going to get married?
Yeah.
Similar.
Katie, this is our Vanderpump.
Yes. It's all those in our show. But it's obviously created a worldwide audience because they're taking this abroad now to multiple PLEs. They're going to Saudi Arabia because first of all, they're paying them $50 million, but they've had events in Europe and in Australia because it's become a global phenomenon.
Yeah, is this just an American thing?
You mean the WWE? Oh, you mean are there other corporations?
No,
worldwide?
like WWE. Like that's just
It's based and homegrown in Stamford, Connecticut is their home base.
okay.
But it is a worldwide conglomerate, what it's become.
Okay.
But it all started, and I'll just say this as briefly, back in the day in the 50s and 60s, there were called wrestling territories, where my territory wrestled in the Northeast, and you had your guys in the South, and everybody just stayed in their own areas.
Gotcha.
All separate companies
Companies.
with little small rosters
Yeah.
throughout the whole U.S.
Some guys would go work in different ones periodically, but at the end of the day, they were just broken into separate areas of the country. Vince McMahon broke the mold and said, I'm going nationwide and I'm going to take over, basically. Well, when that happened, it eventually companies just shrunk to where there was just a couple left, but they've made it become a worldwide, at least, with social media and way to be able to travel, it's become a global phenomenon.
Okay.
That's
Are
how
there
it
any
evolved.
wrestlers from?
All over the world?
Yeah.
100%.
Okay.
There's guys from Japan, and one of the world champions is from Austria right now.
Japan's a huge wrestling country. So is Mexico.
Both have they've had long storied productions down there forever.
There's a WWE counterpart in
Other
in
countries.
Japan,
New
which is a
Japan
different
Wrestling.
company, but a massive following.
New Japan Wrestling.
Same with Mexico, but the largest promotion just got bought out by the WWE, so they'll still operate in Mexico. But Now what's great is they could take their top Mexican wrestler who's super well known in Mexico and have them show up on a main WWE event, and it would be very well received, especially from the Mexican audience.
Do you see this eventually becoming like, okay, so they just acquired the
Yeah.
Mexican company,
Yep.
like UFC, where now you've got like, the people from Japan coming to fight an American.
There's another company called AEW that I mentioned that's like the rival. They're not on a rival sense that they're not equal to WWE, but they have a huge tie-in with New Japan Wrestling. And you'll see guys show up on each, which the true fan that really likes it loves if they're in the know on worldwide wrestling. I know that guy. And now I get to see him over in the United States because I'd never get to see him. Well, they're doing that a bit with the Mexican wrestlers now that they bought it out.
Yeah.
If you're into a guy that maybe you don't know or you do know and you get to see him all of a sudden, like, well, that's pretty cool. How are they going to use him? Well,
Yeah, if you have a top guy in another promotion that has nothing to do with WWE,
Yeah.
I suspect how it happens is the WWE calls that promotion and says, hey, can we borrow your top guy for a night? We're going to give you this much money. We're going to pay him this much money. And it's going to be good for all the brands, right?
Look at Joe Hendry right now. And
Yeah.
between NXT and TNA.
Yeah, there's examples of this where these really well-known wrestlers online, they've built themselves a large social media following.
Or the independent wrestling.
Or the independent guys that are just in these little pockets. Like there's one out of Bluegrass. There's an independent professional wrestling program out of Bluegrass. What's it called?
Scott County Wrestling.
SCW.
So these guys like it's basically, and I know we're sidebarring. It'd be like a guy.
This whole episode's been a sidebar.
It'd be like me as a wrestler getting in and want to be in the minor leagues. Okay, so I'm good enough. I've trained and I'm working in low budget wrestling. But if I'm good, somebody might see me as an agent. Like, hey, that guy, we need to bring him like in for an interview. Maybe he's a guy that could be viable to the WWE, and they might send him to training and development. There's a whole training facility in Florida that's purely for training wrestlers.
Okay, so is this like a talent recruitment
If you could, it's a good way to put
process?
it. Yeah. So
wasn't there a Paul? Which Paul joined?
oh, you're talking
Jake Paul.
Jake
or
Paul.
no, Logan Paul.
Logan Paul.
Logan Paul.
There's a guy that was purely an internet influencer, plus a pretty good athlete who'd done some sparring, who said, I want to be a professional wrestler, at least part-time.
Yeah.
Went down to Florida, trained, and picked it up really flipping fast. And now he's wrestles. Well, now he's fully committed.
He's one of the top guys within the company.
Oh.
Logan Paul gets so much hate, and this is why the WWE loves
him.
He online in real life, he's got hundreds of millions of followers through all of his social media platforms.
He ain't playing a character. He's
No,
playing Logan
that's
Paul.
who he is. Like you can see all of his content and who he is.
Yeah.
Well, the WWE love him because there's a lot of people who hate Logan Paul. They just don't like that guy. So he's a top heel within the WWE because when he comes out, people boo him.
But boy, can he perform.
And his athletic ability is insane. Like he's done some stuff within the WWE. Like I've never seen in 35 years of being a fan of WWE, professional wrestling, I've never seen, and he's doing it, and he's doing it very well.
A veteran would be done it. It's been a 10-year guy. It's like, boy, he's been through school and been around a while, and this guy's like a rookie.
And he's no stranger to cameras and mics, so he can cut some vicious promos.
And you're saying he's doing it well in the sense of his persona.
Yes.
He does well, not his.
No, his
ring.
his in-ring performance is top notch. It's one of the most athletic things you'll ever see.
That's why they
Okay.
grabbed him, because he can do both. I'll give you one more. There's a guy named The Miz. I don't know if you've heard of him. But Mike, I don't say it's Mazowski, but
Something like that.
okay. So Mike's first appearance on TV was on MTV's The Real World.
Okay, yeah.
Didn't win it or anything, but somebody recognized him as having kind of an interesting pizzazz with TV.
He had a few muscles, and he was also kind of cocky. And
Okay.
Well, somebody got him to go train 20-something years ago, and he's still around. But when you have that presence on TV, like some people do, he's a multi-time world champion. So they don't all have to come from traditional wrestling backgrounds or the indies or those opportunities. Now that we've seen where the internet and certain people have, well, who's the rapper?
Travis Scott.
Not Travis Scott. Well, Travis Scott has made some appearances. He hasn't wrestled, but
he's a main instigator.
he's an instigator. He's been on he's on the back of my shirt with John Cena.
What? Okay, but an instigator, as in like,
Plays a bad guy, tries to needle
but he
people.
doesn't get in a ring.
He does. So here's the beauty part about the WWE. They're like, okay, Travis Scott, who's super well known outside of WWE. What if we had him come in and we have him partner up with a couple
bad guys?
Okay.
And then when the bad guys have one over on the good guy in the ring, where the good guy's all beat up, and then Travis gets to come in and get a couple licks in like that, and then everybody kind of plays along, and all of a sudden it's like, why is Travis Scott in a wrestling ring? And it's like, I'm kind of interested in watching at least that reel online, at least that clip I'm going to watch, and maybe I'll follow the WWE. The WWE has how many YouTube followers?
Millions.
Subscribers. Like, they're like a quadruple platinum YouTube channel. Like, I'd love to know how much money the WWE makes just off of YouTube clips.
I'll give you the polar opposite to him. Somebody you might know that's been he hasn't appeared in a couple of years, but people will know him from music. Bad Bunny
Yeah.
has been in a wrestling ring and wrestled and been kind of like Paul. He went down to school like, look, if I'm going to go in there and perform, I want to look like I know what I'm doing. And he's pulled off a couple moves. He's only wrestled like 3 times, but it's like people know him. And then he goes in there like, holy shit.
And actually performs well.
So there are these, when they can find those opportunities to bring in somebody from the real world, they can do it.
That helps blur reality.
And the casual fan's going to be like, well, I like Bad Bunny. Holy shit, he's in a wrestling ring?
Yeah.
Dennis Rodman one day, basketball superstar, had a long run because he loved wrestling, reached out to some guys he knew, Hogan and others. Mm-hmm. They weaved him into a storyline. So there's the blurring of reality that makes it fun.
Yeah. That definitely helps for sure. Just knowing Travis Scott was in a ring is like...
Oh, more than once. Like, he actually, in real life, this was great. Cody Rhodes, the top good guy, is down and out in the ring, surrounded by bad guys, and Travis Scott's hanging around with all the big, strong bad guys within WWE. Travis Scott goes in to give a cheap shot to Cody Rhodes while he's laying down, and overswung it and hit him in the eye and gave Cody Rhodes a legit black eye for like 2 weeks on TV, blew his eye. And now we can all go, oh no, that wasn't that. But what a happy accident that was, because then it's like, that's a real black eye. So that's sometimes those things, when they happen, it really propels a superstar or a Travis Scott. It gives him a lot of street cred too every time he shows up.
Is the fighting still like, because this has been on the whole time, and so like I've been watching it here and there, and like it's very fake fighting. Is it? This is today's more realistic now.
In today, you can't tell. You watch a today's product, and you are like, wow, they have it timed to the millisecond. They're truly out there protecting one another within the ring. But it is. But some of it is real as real can be. These chest chops that these guys take, their chest literally gets cut open from these chest chops, and the bruising, and there's just ways you sometimes you just got to do it. You got to really hit.
But do they? So like every week, like your Raw guys.
Yeah.
Every single week they fight, or like
they might be off selected weeks, but you might be not necessarily in a match, but you might appear either A, to save somebody, or B, cut a promo. So you might only be on for a minute or two, but you're going to have to be at the city that's needed. And a lot of these guys come in ahead of time because they do promotional stuff.
Yeah.
That's what makes them. They just had Fanatics Fest in New York last week.
I saw some clips from that.
There was 125,000 people that showed up for Fan Fest. And they had all the wrestlers there, but there was a bunch of celebrities there that did. So here's great marketing. So they have Fan Fest with all the wrestlers. People love to go meet and greet.
Yeah.
But then they had like Tom Brady there, and they all did like their walks down the ring because everybody thinks, they get walkout music. Well, the fans eat that shit up, because they get to meet some sports figures and meet their fans. Well, they had 125,000 people show up for that event. That's promoting.
Oh yeah. Oh, here we got a promo happening right here. Is this the end of the match? No, this is setting up the match. Okay. So this is a good thing here. They're cutting back to this before Hogan and Macho Man. See, these guys were a tag team. You took the two biggest names, Hulk Hogan and Macho Man Randy Savage, and you put them on a team. This is truly a Batman and Robin type of thing versus all these bad guys. They were a tag team for about a year or so, getting along fine. But then you have a lady in there that you'll see her down at the bottom of the ring. Her name was Miss Elizabeth, Randy Macho Man Savage's real life wife, who also played his manager, but also very timid, is subservient. Would that be a right attitude? Right. Very, very like, here to serve at the pleasure of the Macho Man. Right. And he was always like publicly kind of like not overly nice to her. Like, you're here to serve me. Well, at some point here in the storyline, they're like, wouldn't it be great if Hogan and Macho Man had a falling out and Elizabeth was at the center of the feud?
And the way they did it is one time she got hurt or somebody was going to hurt her and Hogan saved her and picked her up. Right here. Like what could possibly drive a wedge between Hogan and Macho Man? It's Batman and Robin. Well, a woman could. A jealous Macho Man looks over and sees Hogan picking her up and like, what the hell are you doing to my wife? And they start a storyline.
Now, here's what's interesting. Back in the day when we were watching this on TV, you're like, oh, yeah, look at this. Look, Hogan saving Macho Man's wife. And Macho Man's going, what are you doing, brother? That's I should be the one. And then, boom, here we're fighting. We're like, you know what? No.
Enough is enough.
Enough is enough. Now.
You dirty dog.
So this set up WrestleMania 5, the main event, where everyone's like, we're going to see Batman versus Robin here in the main event. And what corner is Elizabeth going to be in? Now, look at this. This is all backstage. Like, Elizabeth is hurt and Savage has had enough. And so now he's attacking Robin is assaulting Batman in the locker room. And now that's a video vignette. Like, this is everything that's happened over the last year. And Hogan is getting ready to go out and
that's what you'll see on Friday night to get you ready for Saturday this week.
And that's what you'll see. You'll see a lot of these vignettes. You'll see a few matches in there, but you're going to get everybody hyped up for what's going to happen Saturday night between all these very volatile feuds. But real quick, before we get off Hogan and Macho, little did we know at the time, this was a real life, actual rub that was going on between Hogan, Macho Man Randy Savage, Elizabeth, Hogan's wife at the time, because in real life, they're best friends. They live in Florida together. They go out on jet skis together. They do all of this when they're not on the road performing. But then there was this alleged kind of extramarital kind of stuff going on, and Vince McMahon, the brilliant promoter he is of the WWE, is like, we can actually make a storyline about this. So this was real life reality being blurred on TV, but we didn't know that. We just thought this was just part of the storyline.
Like that.
They're not all like that, but that's money right there.
Yeah, utilizing.
So,
what time is it?
11:30.
How long have we been talking about professional wrestling?
90 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
Almost.
Oh God.
Chris just stood up back there. He's like, I need to stretch out. Like
I don't
batteries are about to die and everything else. So, listen, you've got to watch Friday night. I'm going to text you.
Okay. What time is this?
7.
We should have a viewing party. I wonder what I got going on Friday night. We should have some people over at the house.
Something for you. So Netflix has now taken over Raw.
Yeah.
and they flux their length of their show. It's about 2.5 hours. SmackDown was always a 2-hour show, but they flipped to 3 when Netflix bought it, and they didn't know how long it was going to be. So right now, SmackDown is 3 hours, but they're going back to 2 hours in the spring. So don't feel like you got to sit through 3 hours and endure. But again, if you watch the beginning, it'll probably have the biggest promotions leading for Saturday. You'll see a crowd. What'll be unique is you'll see a crowd over in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
And I will say this, and Joe will agree with me. When they go to Europe and other areas, Saudi is a little more casual. But, man, when they show up in, like, England or Germany, you think our crowds are bonkers. Their crowds go ape shit.
Oh, it's not. You can't
European
believe the
crowds
noise.
are unique.
Well, because let's face it. Throughout the year, the WWE probably makes a stop in Philadelphia 2-3 times.
Okay, yeah.
Right? So if you're in that area, you're going to catch a show at least once a year if you're a fan.
You're going to make it.
Yeah, like Chicago is a good example, right? If we want to scratch that itch, we can go see a big show in Chicago. But when you're talking, you go to Saudi Arabia or Hamburg, Germany.
Or London, England.
Doesn't happen often.
These are lifelong fans who've never even imagined they'd possibly be able to see these guys live.
Or they have to fly across the pond to WrestleMania or something to see it live.
So they spend $1 bazillion on a ticket, and trust me, when they get there, they're there to party and make as much noise as possible.
It's great.
Yeah, so that's it's pretty fun to actually watch some of the crowd when you go to overseas.
Because they'll start chanting like Cody Rhodes. You'll start hearing this chant like, Cody Rhodes, Cody Rhodes, and they just on and on and on, and you're like, God, they're geeked up. And then you get geeked up because you're watching them get geeked up.
Yeah.
This is going to be fun. So, anyway, you don't have to take 3 hours, but you'll get a feel.
I'll take a little bit of time.
You've been educated.
Yes. Yeah.
Maybe what we'll do, we can do a little bit of a book report.
Oh.
If you will.
Yeah.
Maybe what would be fun is if we
follow up.
Pause this and then we do an episode 2 of Teaching Kayfabe. By Joe Brammeier Presents, powered by your friends at Treadmill Heroes. Why don't we do a follow-up where you'll watch maybe a SmackDown this Friday?
A smidge.
I'll watch
Or
something.
you have Netflix,
yeah.
right? So maybe you watch Netflix on Monday, and then you're going to get the recap of what happened at Night of Champions. The fallout, like what happened. And then at that point, your beak will be a little wet.
I'll go in with an open mind.
Yeah, go in with an open mind. Like, I'm going on Space Mountain.
Yep.
We're going to space, baby. And enjoy the ride for what it is.
Okay.
And just stop being one of those annoying people that are like, wrestling's fake. I don't know why you watch that. Wrestling's fake. Yeah, wrestling's real. It's still real to me, damn it.
We didn't even talk about Night of Champions.
We didn't. But we
can do the follow-up. You and I can do a little recap of what happened and where we think, because SummerSlam is about 6 weeks away.
Let's just give a couple quick predictions of what's going to happen. Okay? 1, I think Gunther. What do you think is going to happen with Gunther versus Bill Goldberg?
I hate to say it, but I think Bill's going to win.
I do too. They need to get rid of these two belts. I don't like it.
Well, I don't think you bring Bill back at this point. By the way, he's 58. He's my age, 58.
Okay.
But was a big popular guy in the 90s and 2000s, like huge. Professional
football player turned wrestler.
Winning streak that went over 100 matches in a row.
Big deal. He's been retired. Now one of the top guys with the other one of those belts. Him and Goldberg are going to fight each other or wrestle each other for the
You and I
belt.
could sit and debate this later because I'm like, so Bill walks out and 10 minutes later he has a freaking match. Well, who approved the match? I thought it was weak storyline.
Yeah.
But do I think Bill's going to win? Yeah. And I think possibly he gets his moment or we get a cash in.
That would be a perfect opportunity for Seth freaking Rollins to run in and get the belt.
People,
yeah,
just get it.
Yep, I think that makes sense, and it still makes Gunther look strong. So that's the other thing too, Kacey. If you're going to take the belt off of one of your top guys and put it on somebody else, you can't make them lose and look weak because then it waters down the strength of that character.
Yeah.
So how do you make them lose but still make them look strong? So what you do is you have them lose by some sort of technicality or some sort of outside interference that nobody could have overcome those odds.
Or Jey Uso have such a great match, because when Jey lost it, that was a hell of a match. And it did not lower Jay's value.
Yep, you still make him look strong
even though he
by
lost.
losing.
Okay, so you think Bill's going to win?
Bill's going to win. Cena will win. I got to believe Cena will win. I can't see a world where CM Punk wins the belt. Cena's going to win that. And then beyond that, we'll just talk about it off camera.
Can I ask you something?
Ask away.
Who do you think is Cena's last match against? Because I have a prediction.
I think Cena's last match. A lot of people, I think it's going to be Randy Orton, which makes sense.
That's my guess.
You think it's Randy Orton?
He's the legend killer.
Yeah.
There's that, and they have a history.
I think we're going to hear the glass break.
Really?
I think we're going to hear the glass break.
One more match from him.
Stone Cold Steve Austin comes out, because if there's one guy who can stop John Cena from doing the same thing CM Punk did 10 years ago, which Cena says he's going to do, he's going to retire, and he's going to take the belt that he already has home with him, and you guys can just make a new belt. But this championship is mine, and I think the only person who can stop him and keep the belt within the WWE, and then they can have a tournament to, find out who's going to win. I think we're going to hear the glass break. Stone Cold Steve Austin, who's in incredible shape still. I think
he's not retired.
He is retired.
Okay,
How
but he's
old
still
is he now?
Mid-50s.
Mid-50s.
He probably wouldn't have retired just shortly. He wouldn't have retired as early if he didn't have a significant neck injury off of a move that actually dropped him on his neck, and it didn't go right, and that shortened his career. So these things happen.
Yeah. Okay.
He's 60.
60.
He was at the height of his career when that, and then he never was. He came back, but it was nagging.
Okay.
So, but there's a guy who's been around as long as Cena that you could say, this is all coming back together.
You heard it here first, folks. I think Stone Cold is coming out to dethrone John Cena right on the way out. And I think there's a way they can do that where Cena looks strong on the way out. It makes sense, We'll see.
I got one more for you. If there was one guy you could see wrestle again, whether he's still around now or retired, to see in a match at his, at his best, who's the guy you'd like to see?
Like live?
Yeah.
Like coming out of the ring or coming out?
You could transpose him back into his physical peak and say, I'd like to see him in a match that I maybe only got to see on TV.
I think it'd be neat to see Andre in his prime. Andre the Giant.
Before he got big and slow.
He's on there.
Yeah. Andre right there. Andre versus Jake the Snake. Andre in his prime, he was great. I mean,
talk about an intriguing story that's been on A&E of his, where he had obviously a pituitary problem that made him grow. They did a 2-hour. There's a story on A&E that's just amazing. He's about as gentle as giant as there is, and there's these stories of him drinking hundreds of beers at once. You should watch the documentary on Andre on HBO. It's so good.
I only know him from The Princess Bride.
Yeah, it's that guy.
Fezzik.
Fezzik
was his name
on Princess Bride.
In Princess Bride. His character name was Fezzik.
Yeah.
I think. Well,
how about you? Who do you want to? Are you bringing somebody back from the dead?
It's so hard for me to. It's easy because I'm a big Triple H guy. I would love to see him again, but obviously, if health issues are going to preclude that.
I got to tell you, we saw DX live. DX was only around for 8 months, which blows my mind. You'd think they were around for like years. DX was only around for less than a year. Did you know that?
No, I would have thought several years.
DX, it was a faction.
Okay.
A group.
I'm learning words.
Yeah, they were a faction, and
they're still relevant in terms of people know it today.
But I remember going to a live Monday Night Raw taping at the Mark of the Quad Cities, and DX came out.
I was there too.
And girls were taking their tops off. Oh, what do we got here? Oh, this is
Big John Studd.
So Big John Studd was another. Oh, okay. So look. So how do you defeat a giant? How do you scare a giant if you're just a regular old Jake the Snake looking guy right there? You have a python in a bag, and giants are scared of snakes right there. So the $1 Million Man is stealing the snake.
The bad guy stealing the snake.
The bad guy is stealing the snake. And you know what that does right there? Well, if the $1 Million Man interrupts Jake the Snake's match, and now this ref is a fake ref. He's actually a wrestler, a guest referee, because they needed a big, strong guy for this big, strong match. Well, now you're setting up a feud between Andre and Big John Studd for later on. Okay. Like, oh, we should see him. And then Jake the Snake versus the $1 Million Man. But how do we save the ref? We get Damien the Python in there. And that's a real python. That's a real python, and Andre wants nothing to do with a python.
Staged or not, I would run.
Look at that thing.
Agreed.
Throw that on the stage? No, thank you.
Yeah, that was his thing. Jake the Snake. He had
not a physically dominant looking wrestler, but had a mystique about him.
Yeah,
he'd bring that snake. You never know when it'd come out. Now, granted, this is the 90s.
Jake the Snake was a very special character, and he meant a lot to the business because up until Jake the Snake, when you'd be backstage cutting the promo, it was all the Hulk Hogan promos. It was like, yeah, brother, I'm going to come out, like all this. Jake the Snake would come and he'd cut a promo, and he'd be like, when I get to that ring, I'm going to wrap my hands around your neck like Damien, my boa constrictor. And he would talk really slow, and it would draw you in. Yeah. And so Jake the Snake was an amazing character without being a yeller and a screamer and all that. You'd almost lean in.
Because I don't care how good a wrestler you are, if you can't get over with the fans with your personality, your stick, you're only going to stick around so long.
They need to boo you or they need to cheer for you, but not that in between.
So do most wrestlers stick around for a long time, or is there a lot of
in and outs?
Yeah.
I'd say there is a select few who have survived the ages.
Okay.
But a common tragedy among professional wrestlers is you can have an amazing athlete. You can have somebody that can cut pretty good promos, but if creative gives them a bad shtick, like a bad character to try to build up, it can fall very flat. And a lot of wrestlers never recover from that character. They don't have, a lot of times creative will go, well, that didn't work, and now we've kind of moved on to this guy, and so we'll just kind of put him down in the little leagues again, and maybe he can figure it out.
And the best example, one of the best.
Well, there's a lot, but go ahead.
Stone Cold was he was a blonde-haired wrestler, had hair, and then he went bald.
Stunning Steve Austin.
And I'm just using that name because he might be one you know.
Yeah.
He did this promo at King of the Ring, and he did the Stone Cold, what did he say?
He actually wrestled Jake the Snake.
Yeah.
And Jake the Snake came out and cut a verse. Jake the Snake was getting very religious at the time, so he cut a religious promo backstage, basically quoting the Bible and what he's going to do about. Okay. And he quoted John 3:16, which is a very famous Bible verse.
Yeah.
Stone Cold Steve Austin decides to go. Wins the tournament.
Jake the Snake
beats
Jake the Snake to win King of the Ring.
Cuts a promo afterwards.
He's all sweaty, he cuts a promo, and he's like, you come out here and you quote all your Bible verses, this and that, and John 3:16, and off the cuff, he goes, but Austin 3:16 says, I just whooped your ass. And
T-shirt,
boom.
The jetpack went on Stone Cold Steve Austin from that moment forward.
Overnight, they're selling millions of T-shirts that say Austin 3:16 on them. So if you're a fan, if you weren't a fan, you didn't know what that meant. But if you were a fan, you were like, dude. And Stone Cold became the top-selling merch guy for God knows how many years. And
that's just one small story of how a promo, let alone he was good, through the roof.
Skyrocket.
And there you go.
But he turned heel that day. He shaved, maybe not just quite that day, but leading up to that, he had shaved his head, grew a goatee, wore only black instead of this flashy. Yeah,
Gotcha.
He was the guy that you love to get behind because he would tell the boss F off, which is unique to be a bad guy and yet loved for being the rebel.
Yeah.
Just very limited people can get into that. But that's, this is fun stuff.
Okay, you got to come back after Night of Champions.
Absolutely.
Or NOC, as we call it in the fanboy world. You need to come back after the Monday Night Raw after Night of Champions. Although I think you should. Do you have Peacock?
Yeah.
You can watch Night of Champions at no additional cost.
What? Okay. When?
So
It'll Saturday.
Since it's in Saudi Arabia, which is 6 hours later, the pay-per-view is at 2 p.m. on Saturday.
Oh.
But if you go on Peacock, on the home thing where it has it'll say WWE programming or network, the pay-per-view for Night of Champions, which is in the afternoon here, is going to be on.
Are you going to be watching it at home in your basement?
I will be in Minnesota, so I will
doing some umpire thing.
No, family stuff. So I'm going to have to find a convenient moment when the rest of the families went to sleep and then do my thing.
I kind of want to have a Night of Champions party at my house because I know Winston.
Gone every time you have. We got to get one of these together at some point.
You got to get your act together. You got to start saying no, Don. You got to start saying no. I'm going to stay around the area in case Joe calls and wants to do a podcast on wrestling.
That's right.
And speaking of podcasts on wrestling, we got to cut this off. Your buddy Randazzo.
Here we go.
I'm going to call you out, Randazzo, Matt Randazzo. Brother.
Is
Mr.
this a promo?
Yeah, I should cut a promo. He's like my rival podcast guy in the Quad Cities. He's got like 8,000 followers on Facebook and God knows on wherever else. But he's a wrestling guy, and he's had Don Umland on his podcast, which, by the way, our setup's way better.
This is really cool.
This is way better. Nothing against Randazzo, but every time you do a podcast with Randazzo, you're sitting shoulder to shoulder. It looks like the Bret Hart promo where he's like got his head cocked, looking at the TV, so you can still see Bret Hart.
I'm gonna have to start saying, "Hey, how bad do you want me?"
Yeah, how bad you want? Because Joe kind of mentioned he'd like to have me. Yeah, just kind of make me be the wedge between you and him, so I can finally get Randazzo here to talk wrestling. I'll even go to you, Matt. I'll even sit neck cocked and talk to you at your place, man. Let's go.
As Matt's manager, I'll get him here. I'll be the Paul Heyman.
Get him here. I got questions for him. You can be Bobby Heenan.
Yes.
You can be the Weasel. The Weasel, Bobby Heenan.
We need to talk on the next show a little bit about why Paul Heyman isn't being... Yes, Ravishing Rick Rude passed away.
The ladies loved him. How could you not?
I mean, yeah.
He looks kind of like your dad in his prime with that mustache there.
Okay.
Next episode, we need to talk a little bit about Heyman and why he isn't being the mouthpiece for Seth.
Why?
He should be the mouthpiece for Seth.
Well, that's the problem. You got a guy that can cut a really great promo, and you got a manager that can cut a really good promo.
But this faction he has, I don't know.
This guy's dead too.
I don't know if Seth's faction is resonating with the fans like Paul's other staples. And really, when Paul's at his best, he's the best. But we'll table that after this pay-per-view because I think it's a good topic.
We got
plenty to talk about.
We've had a lot of cake.
I appreciate you being willing partner in this.
For being open about it.
Truly, not lying to you guys. To be like changed my opinion slightly.
Does this mean we have to come on and do like a recap of Love is Blind now or something at some point?
You'll have to educate us on that TV show.
Or Gilmore Girls.
Oh, absolutely.
I knew it.
All right. Well, we'll do that later.
Later.
We'll do that later.
Yes.
Okay, well, boy, for anybody who fell asleep in their chair and dropped their phone and it was still streaming during this whole thing.
Wake up.
Wake up. The show is over, and we have just taught a little kayfabe to our friend Kacey. Don Umland.
Love it.
Avid fan. The jury's out if you're a bigger fan than I am or not, but we'll learn that as we go here.
We're Uber fans.
And we'll be hollering at you guys later. Enjoy Night of Champions this Saturday, 2 p.m. And that's it. Get out of here. Go do some work. Peace out.